David Gergen knows leadership. He's been an advisor to no fewer than four sitting presidents: Nixon, Ford, Reagan, and Bill Clinton. He's also the founding director of the Center for Public Leadership at the Harvard Kennedy School. Now he's written a book about all that he's learned over the years. It's called Hearts Touched with Fire: How Great Leaders Are Made. David Gergen, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You've written a book about leadership, so
Yes.
let's talk about the leader of the United States,
Yes.
Joe Biden. How do you think he's doing?
Not as well as he should be. From my perspective, early on, I thought he was going to be a very consequential leader because I did think that the empathy he had, the understanding he had, and the inner strength that comes from dealing with the setbacks and the crucible moments that he has experienced in life, I thought they would steel him for the presidency, harden him up. He's done some things right. I think his heart's still in the right place, but it's increasingly hard to tell what the goals are here. I think they need to whittle this down to 2 or 3 major goals and keep hitting that and get them accomplished, both in foreign policy and in domestic policy.
This is the puzzle about Biden. Many of his policies are popular, but he himself has stunningly low approval ratings. Do you understand that?
I don't fully understand it. I do think that the messaging has not been his strength, and going for the people. He so often has something to say, but he puts it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you really got something important to talk to the American people about, do it in prime time. We can handle 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and the role of the leader is to be a teacher. That is an important part of FDR used to argue moral leadership is all about the president making choices and trying to bring people along on difficult issues, and there hasn't been a lot of that. I continue to think highly of him as an individual, but I would also suggest I worry about the idea of having a Biden versus Trump in 2024 when both men are in their 80s. We've never been there before, and I don't think that's healthy. The presidency is too complicated a place, and it requires fine judgment. You only get the hard calls. You get the 52-48 calls. The easy ones are decided somewhere else, down the road.
You have a really wonderful thought here in the book called Leadership Starts from Within.
Yes.
Explain what that means.
Well, I worked for Nixon, and he was the best strategist, as I say, I've ever seen. But he had demons inside him that he had not learned to control, and eventually they did him in. That happens to a lot of leaders, especially when you get on top. You think, I'm so good, the rules don't apply to me. I'm special, and I can get away with it. And what that leads to usually is some sort of disaster. And so I do believe that you have to learn how to understand yourself and control yourself before you can exercise leadership and provide service to others. I think it's really, your journey starts with you. You've got to get yourself anchored. You have to know what your values are. You have to know where your true north is. And then in a complicated world, they can serve you well when you're being buffeted in 5 or 6 different directions.
Where do you find leadership that you admire in the world today?
Well, the one we've been watching is Zelensky. But you have to ask the question, where are America's Zelenskys? Where are our heroes? Where are the people we can point to and tell our kids, this is a good role model for you? Societies need that, and I think we've gotten so much into the habit of when people get up, we want to tear them down. When Colin Powell was going to run for president, the first story that popped out, where did he go wrong in Vietnam? I mean, he had done so many things, and yet it was discouraging to watch that. Why do we have this need to make sure nobody stays on top very long? I'm not sure. There's something that's unhealthy in this society that we need. That again, I think new generations will help to change that.
Do you think we're sort of living in a time where it's difficult to imagine that kind of heroic model of leadership?
Yes, it's very difficult.
Social media, all that.
Yeah, in fairness, the how you get things done today is different. It's evolved. We used to talk about the great man, the man on the white horse, but now what we look for is constructive collaboration, teams. The picture you remember of Jack Kennedy that stands out is him alone in the Oval Office, hunched over a globe in the dust, and he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. Versus today, when Barack Obama is down there in the Situation Room, and they've got there chasing Osama. The picture is like 7 or 8 or 10 people around him, you know, his team. And increasingly, leadership comes through teams.
Finally, you say maintain a celestial spark.
Yes, that was George Washington, and he had a little copybook about, you know, how to live a good life, and he took it very seriously. But the last item on it was, remember the celestial spark in your life, and that goes to the quote I use about hearts touched with fire. It comes from Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., who was grievously wounded in the Civil War at least 3 times, left for dead on the battlefield. But he gave a speech 20 years later, in which he talked about how important the Civil War had been for his generation. And he said, you have to live in the passions of your time. If you don't do that, you're less than a man. But he talked about, in our generation, we were blessed. He's talking about people who went out and got killed on the battlefield. We were blessed to have hearts touched with fire. And it was really meaningful for us that we lived in the passions of our time. And I think, you know, we need to be teaching our young folks that.
David Gergen,
Great.
great teacher.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be with you.